I welcome you to another global broadcast, Semaj Mind Spa. You know, the concept of the mind, the most powerful entity that we know of, and the spa, that space where we remove toxins and we energize and strengthen and make things work much better. Now, this episode, this edition, this reasoning has been stimulated by, should we say, the box, the slap that was heard around the world. And as you can see in our, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That slap by Will Smith to the face of Chris Rock. It has stimulated a very important discussion. And I do believe that we should use this opportunity to talk about something that is extremely critical. Let me give you my position is very simple. There's words and there are deeds. My personal view, and you can tell me what you think, that Chris Rock should sue Will Smith for at least 500,000 US dollars. This is approximating the global exposure of the assault. The reason for this, I'm saying, is look, we need to have a court decision on this to lend the voice to the importance of actions such as these. And I want to elucidate much further. We're talking about anger management. So, this is a chance for us to talk about this critical issue, anger management. We've seen a clear example what happens when someone gets angry, very angry, where irrespective of the public context, their behavior could not have been contained. There's a wonderful quote from Martin Luther King Jr. He says that we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Not too many middle points on this. Now, there's a wonderful Buddhist proverb that says that you will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. I think this is a teachable moment for all of us. And when something occurs and you don't learn the lesson, you end up repeating the class. Let's see if we can learn the lesson. At least I'll do my part to see how I can help to clarify the lessons involved. We're told that anger is an emotion, but violence is a behavior. Thich Nhat Hanh passed away some time ago, not too long ago, and he said that when you express your anger, either verbally or with physical violence, you are feeding the seed of anger and it becomes stronger in you. It's a dangerous practice. Do you believe that? I do. That's why I'm taking the time to stimulate a little further discussion on this thing. Anger is an emotion, violence is a behavior. It is said that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The real outcome of what anger does is what it does to you. Now, the consequences to the other person could also be great, but the ultimate consequences to you. Chris Rock's face will soon stop hurting. But what has the hurt Will Smith done to his career, to his reputation? Hmm? What has it done? Anger and aggression. Let's put them in perspective now. Anger versus aggression. It's important to put these things in perspective because we see the results of what happens on a daily basis. Anger is something we feel. Aggression is something we do. It is quite possible to feel angry. without behaving aggressively. And that's the rub. That is the ultimate quest that we're trying to get to. Nothing wrong with feeling anger because it's an integral part of being human. The question is what you do with it. That's the real issue. There are three critical keys to anger. What have we learned? Huh? What have we learned over time as to what you should and shouldn't do, irrespective of where? At home, on the playground, in school, from your parents, from media? Huh? How do we think? How do you think you should behave? We could even add what happens when the cognitive processes are overloaded or overridden. And third, what's the level of arousal? Meaning that process that triggers the emotion that ultimately triggers the behavior. Those are the three critical components to look at because this does not happen in a vacuum. The data tells us that anger is controllable. We are not totally at the mercy of our emotions. The data tells us we can unlearn it. Yes, we have learned these maladaptive, dysfunctional behaviors. We can unlearn it. Data also tells us that we can change our thinking. We can also reduce the arousal that triggers us. So as you look on, as you smirk, as you enjoy, as you admonish what has happened, bear this in mind. Anger and its consequences, we can unlearn it, we can change our thinking, we can reduce the arousal level. Now, anger and aggression have benefits. There's no question about that. They're immediate, but they're temporary. Example, I am sure that Will Smith felt good immediately as he walked up there, as he hauled back and he slapped Chris Rock upside his face. He felt good, he felt great, but I can assure you that was temporary. Anger and aggression also have cost. It says, look at the cost benefit. The cost is usually delayed, but the cost is lasting. Look how long we have been talking about this, and it's only just begun. Look how much longer we're going to be talking about it. I could not ask for a better example of what anger and aggression does in terms of the benefits. Yes, we saw it, and the cost. We will be seeing the cost going forward as it accumulates and compounds. It is said that you should control your anger because it is just one letter away from danger. One letter away from danger. Now, the triggers. What about yourself? What are the things that trigger you? In some societies, if you say something about someone's mother, it's a powerful trigger. Someone's wife, powerful trigger. Someone's child, powerful trigger. Anger is never without a reason. But, as Ben Franklin said, seldom a good one. There is always a reason. We can always identify a reason. We can always identify a trigger for anger. But it is rarely a good reason. What about yourself? Examine your list. What are the triggers on your list that would get you to behave in such a demonstrable, aggressive manner in a public setting? What are your triggers? You can express anger. The instinctive, natural way to express anger is to respond aggressively. Again, go back to our evolutionary past. So we are not denying it. Anger is a natural and adaptive response to threats. It inspires powerful, often aggressive feelings and behaviors which allow us to fight to defend ourselves when we are attacked. So you see, if you notice something that, when you're in a kind of primitive context, you raise the anger, you raise the anger, you raise the anger, and then almost let the armies go. But one thing we've come to realize that in things like sports, even something as aggressive as boxing, if one party gets angry, chances are he's going to lose because that anger it short circuits a lot of other cognitive processes that we have to draw on, and it compromises your ability to think. So acting out of anger and thinking are usually mutually exclusive. So that's why oftentimes the benefit is short term and the consequences, especially the negative ones, are long lasting. The goal of anger management then is to reduce both your emotional feeling and the physiological arousal that causes the anger. What can you do to deflect, to prevent, to remove that emotional feeling? What can you do to reduce the arousal level? Count to 10, count to 100, laugh it off. What can you do? What works for you? Because this is a teachable moment. Now, there's three basic shortcuts in terms of neutralizing, anger. One is to change the situation. If it's something at work, there's something to do with a piece of equipment or so on. But many times, we don't have the power to change work settings, to change equipment, to move things around. All right? The second option is to change the people. You leave the situation, or you get them to leave the situation. Many times, this is not possible. Again, look at the case of Will Smith and Chris Rock. Obviously, Chris Rock wasn't going anywhere because he was the host of the show. Obviously, Will Smith wasn't going anywhere. He was going to get mad and walk out because he expect this is his greatest moment. He expect to receive his Oscar. So that was out. The third option for neutralizing anger is the one that comes into being. What can you do to change your habits, to change your perception? The power over yourself is the only thing that comes into play. And again, I'm asking to you to use this to think about yourself. What are your triggers? What are the situations that brings out the worst in you? What can you do to change your habits? What can you do to change your perception? There'll always be lapses. Even when you think you've got it covered, there'll be lapses, there'll be relapses. Let's talk through some of them. Huh? If you don't monitor your thinking, your action, your feelings, or your arousal, you can easily go back to that which you're moving away from. If you put yourself in a high risk situation, you can easily lapse or relapse. If you don't use good coping skills to deal with the situation, you can be in trouble. If you don't challenge the negative thoughts and distortions that are coming at you, you can be in trouble. If you don't lower your level of arousal and use your communication skills to express yourself, you could be in trouble. If you start thinking that you can't cope